In the endless stars, history often became stories, and stories often became myths. For most of the galaxy, humanity was one such myth. The alien Academy spoke of them only in passing, as if they were little more than old tales. They were described as reckless, fierce, and dangerously ambitious. According to most records, they had burned themselves out long ago, consumed by their own wars on the blue planet called Earth. But to the young historian Kirillin, these stories did not sound like simple legends. He had always been curious, even as a child, about the idea of a species that had vanished so completely. Kirillin belonged to the Shaltek, a long-lived and scholarly race known for their vast libraries and dedication to truth. He spent countless nights reading through dusty archives, listening to ancient recordings, and studying fragments of old star maps. Everywhere he searched, there were small hints. A battle here, a treaty there, whispers of humans reaching far into space before disappearing. Something about it troubled him. How could a species so bold and widespread simply vanish without leaving behind more proof? Most of his peers dismissed his questions. Humans are just myths, they told him. They were exaggerated by frightened neighbors. They never truly had such power. Stop wasting your time. But Kirillin could not stop. Deep inside, he felt there was more to this story. One day, in the grand halls of the Shaltek Academy, he uncovered an old report written thousands of years ago by explorers from the Jalar Dominion. The report was badly damaged, but it described something unusual. Strange energy readings near a small yellow star system, the Sol system. The report ended abruptly, with the explorers claiming they would investigate further. There were no records of them returning. Kirillin's heart raced. That star was the one humans were said to come from. Earth. Could it still hold answers? He presented his findings to the Council of Scholars. They listened with mild amusement, but most shook their heads. Only a few advisors agreed to support him. Eventually, Kirillin managed to secure a small place on an exploratory fleet that was heading near that region. The fleet was led by the Veyari Alliance, a coalition of alien species who shared resources for exploration. They were not expecting much, just old ruins or perhaps mineral-rich planets. But Kirillin knew in his heart that they would find something far greater. The journey took many weeks. The ships cut through silent space, their drives glowing faintly as they passed stars and dust clouds. Kirillin spent most of his time staring at the maps, tracing the paths of long-dead explorers who once dared to go farther than anyone else. He felt both nervous and excited. If humans were truly gone, then at least he would solve the mystery. But if they were not, when the fleet finally reached the edge of the Sol system, Kirillin felt a shiver of anticipation. Before them stretched a place abandoned by time. The star itself glowed gently, a golden sphere that warmed its planets. But as the fleet scanned the system, something unusual appeared on their sensors. Mars. The red world looked quiet and lifeless at first. But beneath its dust storms and craters, there were structures, massive, ancient, and clearly artificial. The explorers gasped as images came through. Towers buried in sand, domes cracked but still standing, and long tunnels stretching beneath the surface. "This cannot be natural," one of the captains whispered. Kirillin leaned forward, eyes wide. The architecture was not like anything in current alien records. It was strange, angular, and powerful, and it looked human. The fleet moved closer, sending drones to investigate. As the machines flew through the ruins, they captured more images, faded banners with strange markings, empty halls once filled with life, and machines long rusted but unmistakably advanced. Kirillin touched the screen gently. So it is true. They were here. They built this. The discovery shook the fleet. News spread quickly back to the Veyari Alliance, and soon the galaxy was buzzing with the rumors. Humanity had not been a myth after all. They had been real, and their reach had stretched farther than anyone had believed. But the surprises did not end there. As the fleet explored further, they found something on the moon of Earth. Hidden deep inside its gray surface was a massive underground facility. Unlike the ruins on Mars, this one still held faint traces of power. The explorers hesitated, unsure whether to enter. Kirillin insisted. "This is not just history," he said. "This may be the key to understanding why they vanished." Inside, the chambers were vast and silent. Dust coated the ground, but the walls glowed faintly with strange symbols. The deeper they went, the more they felt the weight of the place. It was not just a base. It was a vault of memory. They found rows of chambers filled with data crystals, holographic projectors, and ancient star maps. Some were damaged, but many still worked. When the machines flickered to life, the explorers saw visions of humans, tall, determined figures speaking in a language long forgotten. They saw fleets of ships gleaming with power, traveling beyond the system. One hologram showed Earth itself, vibrant and alive. Another showed humans shaking hands with alien ambassadors, forming alliances. But then the images turned darker. War, fire, fleets clashing in the void, and then silence. The last recording ended with a message in broken translation. "We will not end. We will wait." The words chilled Carolyn. What did it mean? Did humans flee? Did they hide? The fleet left the moon shaken and thoughtful. The galaxy now had undeniable proof. Humanity had existed, and their technology was centuries beyond what most civilizations possessed today. But what had become of them? As they turned their sensors outward, preparing to leave, something strange happened. From the far edge of the system, beyond the orbit of the last cold planet, faint signals began to appear. They were unlike anything the explorers had seen before, deep rhythmic pulses as if answering the scans. The fleet went silent, listening to the steady beat. Kierland stared at the readings, his heart pounding. He whispered softly to himself, "They are not gone." The signals grew stronger, carrying a strange pattern. It was not natural. It was not random. It was deliberate. Someone or something was out there, waiting. And as the alien fleet turned their ships toward the edge of the system, a shadow moved in the dark, far beyond Pluto. Hidden in the black of space, great shapes began to stir. Their hulls were vast and cold, bearing the forgotten symbol of Earth. Their engines slowly awakened after centuries of silence. The explorers did not yet know what they had found, but Kierland did. The legend of humanity was about to rise again. The alien fleet drifted quietly through the Sol system, their engines soft against the endless black. The discovery of human ruins on Mars and the ancient vault beneath the moon had already shaken them. But now something new stirred at the edge of space. Signals, rhythmic and deliberate. Kierland sat in the command chamber of the lead vessel, his long fingers tapping the table nervously. His heart raced as he studied the data. The pulses were steady, strong, and full of purpose. They were not the dying echoes of old machines. These signals were alive. "Where are they coming from?" asked Captain Vale, a tall Veyari officer whose scales shimmered faint blue. Kierland pointed to the star map. "Beyond the orbit of the last planet, past the frozen edges of this system, something waits there." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The further they went, the more they felt like intruders. Yet the pull of discovery was stronger than fear. The fleet adjusted course. Slowly, carefully, they pushed beyond Neptune, past Pluto, and into the deep dark. At first, all was empty silence. But then shapes began to appear on the long-range scanners. They were massive. "Ships," whispered one of the officers. The alien fleet held its breath. The shadows grew clearer as they moved closer. Gigantic vessels, long and black, floated silently in the void. They were larger than any ships the Veyari Alliance had ever built, their hulls covered in strange designs, their silhouettes sharp and menacing, and on their sides, worn but unmistakable, was the ancient symbol of Earth. The explorers stared in disbelief. Humanity's fleet was not gone. It had been waiting. "Are they active?" Captain Vale asked, his voice low. The sensors pulsed again. The massive ship stirred, engines glowing faintly after centuries of sleep. One by one, their lights flickered to life. "They are waking up," Kierland whispered. His voice carried both awe and fear. The alien fleet froze. No one dared to make a sudden move. They were standing face to face with the very legends they had once laughed at in classrooms. Then, without warning, one of the great ships transmitted a signal. The message was strong, ancient, yet precise. Their computers scrambled to translate. After long minutes, a rough voice echoed through the chamber. "You stand in Seoul. Identify yourselves." The sound was harsh, powerful, and unmistakably human. Captain Vale hesitated before responding. "We are explorers of the Veyari Alliance. We mean no harm. We came only to study." A long silence followed. The alien crew waited, their hearts pounding. Then the voice returned. "You have found what was hidden, And now you will answer, why are you here? The tension was thick. The Veyri officers looked to Kirillin, who slowly stepped forward. His voice trembled, but he spoke clearly. We seek the truth, he said. We were taught humanity was only a myth, but we found your ruins, your history. We came to understand what happened to you. Another silence followed. For a moment, Kirillin feared they would be destroyed, but instead the human voice replied, softer this time. Then you shall know. Hold position. We are coming to you. The alien fleet erupted into nervous chatter. Coming to us? What do they mean? Should we flee? Captain Vale clenched his jaw. We hold. Moments later, one of the massive human ships slowly turned toward them. Its engines roared softly, and its hull glimmered as it drew closer. The sheer size of it dwarfed the alien vessels, casting them in shadow. At last, a smaller craft detached from the great ship and drifted toward the alien flagship. It docked with practiced precision. The airlock hissed. The aliens stood ready, hearts racing. The doors slid open, and out stepped the figures that had haunted their legends. Humans. They were tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in dark uniforms that bore the insignia of Earth. Their eyes burned with intensity, sharp and calculating. Every movement carried confidence, as if they had never truly been gone. At their head stood a man with silver hair and a scar across his cheek. His voice was calm but carried the weight of command. I am Admiral Rains of the Earth Fleet, he said. You have awakened us. The aliens bowed their heads slightly, unsure how to respond. Kirillin stepped forward again, trembling with both fear and wonder. You survived. All this time, where did you go? Admiral Rains studied him, his eyes narrowing slightly. We did not vanish. We prepared. The words sent chills through the chamber. Humanity had not died. They had hidden. For centuries, while the galaxy forgot them, they had been building, waiting, and watching. The Admiral continued. When the wars consumed Earth, we saw what was coming. Our enemies believed we destroyed ourselves. We let them believe. In truth, we withdrew. We sealed our fleets, hid our worlds, and swore we would return only when the time was right. The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. This was not the story they had been taught. Kirillin's voice shook with curiosity. And now? Why return now? Admiral Rains' eyes darkened. Because the galaxy has forgotten us. That was the plan. Now it begins again. The aliens felt a mix of awe and dread. The humans were not simply survivors. They were strategists, patient beyond measure and armed with technology that seemed untouchable. But before fear could take full hold, Admiral Rains spoke again. We do not seek war without cause. But know this, humanity remembers. We remember who tried to erase us. We remember who betrayed us. And we will not forgive. The words were heavy like thunder in the silence. Kirillin stepped forward once more, his courage rising despite his fear. Not all the galaxy was against you. Many today do not even know your story. If you rise in fire now, will you not become the monster the legends painted you as? For the first time, the Admiral's expression softened. He studied the young historian for a long moment, then nodded slightly. You speak boldly for one so small, he said. Perhaps not all in this galaxy are blind. We will consider your words. But know this, humanity bows to none. We stood alone before. We will stand again. The meeting ended, but the alien fleet was forever changed. They had not just uncovered ruins or stories. They had woken a giant. As the humans returned to their great ship, Kirillin felt the weight of destiny pressing on him. He knew what he had seen would echo across every star system. The legend of humanity was alive, and it burned brighter than ever. The alien fleet prepared to depart, but before they could, Admiral Rains sent one last message. Tell your galaxy, humanity has returned, and the fire you see is only the beginning. As the alien ships pulled away, Kirillin stared back at the dark shapes of Earth's fleet, their engines glowing like sleeping dragons. His heart pounded with both fear and wonder. He whispered to himself, the galaxy is not ready. Far behind them, in the cold black of space, the Earth fleet stirred, fully awake. Dozens of massive ships moved in silent formation, their weapons gleaming faintly. They were not just shadows of the past. They were the storm of the future, and soon the galaxy would feel their fire. The galaxy trembled with whispers. News of the Sol system spread faster than light. Explorers, traders, and ambassadors carried the story across empires. Humanity was alive. For thousands of years, people had thought them extinct or only myth, but now the truth could not be denied. Great warships, massive and silent, had awakened at the edge of the system. They bore the forgotten symbol of Earth, and they moved with purpose. In academies across the stars, teachers stuttered as their lessons became lies. Politicians argued in fear. Merchants whispered about opportunity. Soldiers prepared for war. For Kirillin, the young historian who had first pushed for the expedition, everything had changed. He had seen the humans with his own eyes. He had stood in the same room as Admiral Rains, who declared boldly, "We did not vanish. We prepared." The words echoed in Kirillin's mind. What did it mean for the galaxy? What did it mean for history? The Vayari Alliance fleet returned to their central world with the news. Crowds gathered as the explorers stepped off their ships. Officials demanded answers, scholars demanded proof, and soldiers demanded preparations. Kirillin was brought before the Council of the Alliance to testify. The great chamber was filled with representatives of dozens of species, their voices rising in fear and anger. "Humans are dangerous," one ambassador shouted. "If they survived, they must be planning to dominate us again." "They are only one species," argued another. "Why should we fear myths made real?" "They are not myths," Kirillin interrupted, his voice firm. "I saw them. I spoke with them. They are real, and they are powerful." The chamber fell into silence as all eyes turned to him. "They hid themselves for centuries," Kirillin continued. "They built in secret. They watched us while we forgot them. Do not mistake them for relics of the past. They are stronger than we ever imagined." Murmurs filled the air again, fear mixed with disbelief. Far away in the dark of Sul, the Earth fleet prepared. Admiral Rains stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Resolve, watching as the other ships came alive around him. Engines flared, shields pulsed, weapons hummed with energy. These ships were not built in haste. They were the product of centuries of hidden work, designed not just to defend but to dominate if needed. "Status of the fleet?" the Admiral asked. "All systems operational," replied Commander Hale, his second in command. "Weapons at full charge. Engines aligned." "Crews ready," Rains nodded slowly. For generations, humanity had been silent. They had chosen patience over pride, survival over glory. But now the galaxy no longer remembered their strength. That was dangerous. And so they would remind it. But Rains was not without caution. Humanity had not endured this long only to throw itself into reckless war. They would move with precision. Each step would carry meaning. While the galaxy debated, the humans acted. The first move came quietly. Small human vessels, sleek and black, slipped beyond Sul into neighboring systems. They carried advanced cloaking, invisible to most scanners. They did not attack. They watched. They studied trade routes, military posts, and communications. In less than a month, the Earth fleet knew more about the galaxy than the galaxy knew about them. Meanwhile, messages spread across human ships. Crews who had lived their whole lives in silence now prepared for the greatest return in history. Some felt fear, others pride, but all carried the same determination. Humanity would rise again. Back in the Vayari Alliance, not all agreed on how to respond. Some wanted peace. Others wanted preparation for war. A few even suggested striking first before humans could grow too strong. But Kirillin stood against that idea. "You do not understand," he told the council. "You cannot strike them. You cannot frighten them. They are already beyond us. If you provoke them, they will crush you." "Then what do you suggest, historian?" one ambassador sneered. Kirillin took a deep breath. "We must talk to them. We must show them that not all the galaxy is their enemy. If we reach out, maybe they will not see us as threats." The council murmured in uncertainty. But Kirillin knew the truth. The galaxy had two choices: fear humanity and prepare for war, or speak to them and hope for peace. It was not long before the choice was made for them. In the system of Tarvos Prime, far from Sul, a fleet belonging to the Cathari Dominion intercepted a human scouting vessel. The Cathari were proud and aggressive, an empire that had once fought against humanity long ago. Their record still held bitter tales of defeat, and they had not forgotten. When they saw the black hull and the symbol of Earth, they attacked without warning. The battle was short. The single human vessel, though smaller, unleashed weapons that shredded the Cathari ships in minutes. The survivors fled in terror, carrying the news back to their empire. Humanity had drawn blood. The story spread like wildfire. The galaxy now understood. The humans were not just awake, they were powerful. They could not be ignored. Admiral Rains addressed his fleet after the clash. His voice carried across every ship. "We did not choose this battle," he said, "but it reminds us of who we are. We are not shadows. We are not forgotten. We are humanity, and we stand once more. Let the galaxy remember our name." The crews erupted in cheers. For them, it was not only victory. It was proof that their long silence had meaning. They were ready. Kirillin, watching these events unfold from afar, felt both dread and hope. He knew this was only the beginning. The Cathari would not forgive their defeat. Other empires would take sides. Soon the galaxy would split between those who feared humanity and those who sought their alliance. And Kirillin, the young historian, found himself at the center. Messages arrived for him from humans themselves. Admiral Rains remembered his words and saw something useful in him. A bridge. "We will not speak with their leaders yet," the Admiral wrote. "But we will speak with you. Tell us what the galaxy has become. Tell us who remembers us as enemies, and who may stand as allies. Guide us, Kirillin, and perhaps your people will not burn when the fire spreads." Kirillin trembled as he read the message. He was no warrior, no politician, only a seeker of truth. Yet now truth itself was power, and he carried it in his hands. As Part 3 closes, the galaxy holds its breath. Humanity's fleet has returned, strong and unyielding. Their first clash has shaken empires. Alliances are forming, enemies sharpening blades. And Kirillin, once a curious historian, now walks the line between peace and fire. For the galaxy, the legend is no longer a story. It is reality, and reality burns. The galaxy was no longer calm. The return of humanity had awakened both awe and fear. Messages spread between star systems, warning empires and colonies alike. The humans are back. On the distant world of Larian, diplomats hurried through crowded halls. Alarms rang through military stations as generals debated their next move. Ships were being readied. Weapons were sharpened. The Cathari Dominion, humiliated by their first encounter with the humans, had begun calling allies to arms. Across the systems, a single thought dominated minds. Humanity must be stopped. Or joined. In the Sol system, Admiral Rains stood on the bridge of eternal resolve, overlooking the vast formation of the Earth fleet. Hundreds of ships, each bristling with advanced technology, floated in disciplined lines. Their engines glowed faintly, ready to move at speeds that defied alien comprehension. "Reports?" he asked, his voice calm yet commanding. Commander Hale answered, "The Cathari are sending fleets to the outer systems. The empires are debating alliances. Some are seeking contact. Others are preparing for war." Rains nodded. "Let them. The galaxy has forgotten the humans. It is time they remember." He paused, watching the stars stretch endlessly beyond the viewport. "We strike with precision. Not all will fall, but all will learn." Kirillin, observing these movements from his position in the Veyari alliance, was both terrified and fascinated. He had once thought humanity a legend, then a discovery, and now he realized they were an unstoppable force. A message arrived for him from Admiral Rains. "Marked urgent. We begin our campaign," the message read. "You will come with us, historian. Guide our steps. Ensure that the galaxy understands who we are before fire reaches its heart." Kirillin's hands trembled as he accepted. For the first time, he realized he was part of history. The first operation was swift. Human scouts moved silently into Cathari-controlled systems, using cloaking technology that even the most advanced alien fleets could not detect. They struck key communication hubs and supply stations. Ships and stations fell in precise silence, leaving minimal traces of battle. The message was clear. Humanity had returned, and it would not be ignored, but the humans were not indiscriminate. Their attacks targeted only strategic points, crippling the enemy without unnecessary destruction. Civilians and neutral colonies were left untouched. Their goal was dominance, yes, but dominance tempered with control and foresight. Reports spread across the galaxy. Humans are not only back, they are unstoppable. Fleets that once intimidated entire systems were destroyed in hours. Weapons that alien scientists called impossible were now in action. Energy beams that cut through shields like paper. Engines that allowed ships to appear and vanish faster than the eye could follow. And tactics so precise they seemed almost predictive. In distant colonies, fear turned to panic. Entire governments began sending envoys, seeking treaties before humanity reached their borders. Some hoped for alliance, some hoped for mercy, many did not hope at all. Despite the fear, humanity's leadership moved with clarity. Admiral Rains held councils with his commanders. "Remember," he said, "we do not destroy without purpose. We will not become the monsters the galaxy imagined. Precision, patience, control. Strike only where needed and show the galaxy that humanity's fire is not blind." The commanders nodded. Humans were united, disciplined, and loyal. For centuries, their people had trained in silence. Now the years of preparation revealed themselves. Kirillin watched the preparations, learning quickly. He saw patterns, strategies, and the care with which humans calculated each step. They were terrifying, but not cruel. Alien leaders tried to negotiate. Envoys arrived at human positions pleading for peace. But Admiral Rains listened carefully. "Many in your galaxy fear us," he said to a delegation from the Veeri Alliance. "Some will fight us. Others may join. We do not seek empire. We seek respect, and we will ensure no one forgets that humans cannot be erased." The alien envoys left unsettled. They had expected aggression. But what they received was a warning wrapped in reason. Humanity could destroy them, but they chose not to. The fear of fire, tempered with wisdom, left a mark deeper than any weapon could. Kethari fleets continued to advance. They underestimated humanity, thinking their strength enough to confront the returning species. They were wrong. The first large-scale battle erupted near the Kethari homeworld. Hundreds of ships clashed in the void. Alien weapons fired in bright streaks, but human shields absorbed energy in ways no one had predicted. Beams of blue-white fire cut through the enemy with pinpoint accuracy. Entire squadrons were neutralized before they could regroup. From the bridge of eternal resolve, Admiral Rains watched silently. "Hold formation. Strike only where necessary. End this efficiently." Minutes later, the battle ended. The Kethari fleets were scattered, their remaining ships fleeing in panic. Humanity had struck, not with anger, but with purpose. Across the galaxy, news spread faster than light. Humans were not only real, they were supreme strategists. They could not be matched by conventional fleets. Empires began questioning their plans. Diplomats worked frantically to find positions of neutrality or alliance. The galaxy's political balance, long thought stable, now trembled. Kirillin realized the full magnitude of what he had witnessed. Humanity was not merely strong, they were catalysts. Their return would change the galaxy forever. He wrote notes for himself, trying to understand the methods, the strategy, and the discipline that allowed humans to accomplish so much with such control. He feared for the worlds that were unprepared. He feared for the consequences of mistakes, and yet he felt awe. On board Eternal Resolve, Admiral Rains convened another meeting with his commanders. "We move deeper," he said. "Some will resist. Others will see reason. We will not destroy blindly, but we will not hesitate when fire is needed. Remember, we are humanity, and the galaxy must remember us as well." The commanders nodded. They understood. Every human in the fleet had trained for this moment. They had prepared not just for survival, but for recognition. The galaxy had forgotten them. Now it would remember. Kirillin watched silently, realizing that his place was no longer just as an observer. He had become a messenger, a bridge between humans and the galaxy. He would speak to leaders, translate intentions, and witness history as it unfolded. By the end of Part 4, humanity had proven their might, but also their discipline. Entire alien fleets had been neutralized. Systems were rethinking alliances. Diplomats were scrambling to avoid conflict. Yet Kirillin knew the story was far from over. This was only the beginning of humanity's full return. The galaxy would see fire, strategy, and judgment unlike anything before. The legend of humanity was no longer a story. It had awakened, and its flames were spreading across the stars. And somewhere beyond the known systems, other alien civilizations watched, wondering, could any survive when the humans truly decide to act? The galaxy was on fire, and humanity was the spark. After the swift and precise victories across contested systems, the legend of humanity had become reality. Aliens who once laughed at the tales of Earth's warriors now trembled at their return. Stories of humans moving through fleets, striking with incredible accuracy and vanishing before retaliation reached them, had spread across star systems. Fear and awe rippled through every civilization. Yet humanity's fleet did not stop at destruction. They moved deliberately, cautiously. Admiral Rains had made it clear. Humanity sought not conquest, but recognition. The galaxy must remember them. Not as monsters, but as survivors who had endured. Kirillin followed the fleet closely. He had been welcomed as a liaison between humans and alien civilizations. His knowledge of galactic politics and history made him valuable, but he remained in awe of what he witnessed. Every human ship, every strategy, every decision reflected centuries of preparation. Humanity had not just returned, they had returned ready. During a council held aboard Eternal Resolve, Admiral Rains addressed the fleet. His voice was calm yet carried the weight of authority. "We have awakened the galaxy," he said. "Some will fear us. Some will seek alliance. Some will resist. But humanity does not act without purpose. We are not here to conquer. We are here to ensure no species, no civilization will ever be erased again. That is our duty. That is our legacy." The crew responded with quiet determination. They understood the responsibility of power. They had been silent for centuries, and now, the galaxy would see them fully awake. Meanwhile, across the stars, reactions varied. Some civilizations submitted to humanity's diplomacy, seeking alliance before conflict could erupt. They admired the human skill, discipline, and restraint. They understood that resisting would lead to unnecessary loss. Others, still proud or fearful, tried to challenge humanity. Entire fleets were sent to intercept human squadrons, hoping to test the legends against reality. Every encounter ended in the same way. Humans moved with unmatched precision, neutralizing threats without unnecessary destruction. It became clear that brute force could not match humanity's intelligence, coordination, and advanced technology. Kirillin recorded every event, fascinated by how humans combined strategy with restraint. Humanity's strength was not just in weapons, it was in thought, planning, and unity. The turning point came in the sector of Varel Prime, where a coalition of empires had united to confront the Earth fleet. Thousands of ships surrounded the human forces, hoping sheer numbers could overpower them. Admiral Rains did not panic. He called a council with his commanders and mapped their approach. "We do not strike first," he said, "but we will not hesitate to protect ourselves. Precision, coordination, and controlled fire show them that humanity does not need chaos to succeed." The battle began. Beams of light and energy clashed in the darkness. Alien ships moved in formation, attempting to flank the humans, yet the Earth fleet responded with unmatched speed, cutting through formations and disabling enemy vessels without unnecessary loss of life. Within hours, the coalition was scattered. Alien leaders fled, sending desperate messages of surrender. The humans had won without spreading fear through indiscriminate violence. News of the victory spread like wildfire. For the first time, many civilizations began to rethink their understanding of humanity. These were not monsters. These were not tyrants. They were disciplined, intelligent, and just. Kirillin was summoned to record meetings between humans and alien leaders. The atmosphere was tense, but slowly understanding grew. Rulers who had once seen humanity as a threat now sought dialogue. Scholars who had once dismissed humans as legend now studied them carefully. The galaxy was learning that the humans' fire was controlled, their power unmatched, but their intentions were guided by reason and justice. During one meeting, Admiral Rains addressed a group of alien ambassadors. His tone was firm yet conciliatory. "You have feared us," he said. "You have doubted us. But know this, humanity's return is not an act of vengeance. It is an act of survival and respect. We will not erase civilizations. We will not conquer for pride, but we will protect ourselves and others from being erased. Stand with us and you stand with history. Oppose us and you oppose truth." The ambassadors were silent. They realized the humans were unlike anything they had faced. Not merely powerful, but wise. Not merely aggressive, but deliberate. Kirillin watched as human diplomats engaged in negotiations with alien leaders. His respect for them grew. He realized that humanity's greatest strength was not their ships or weapons. It was their unity of purpose. They were strong, yes, but they used that strength to build trust, not just instill fear. For the first time, the young historian felt hope. Perhaps the galaxy could be a place of balance again, guided by the presence of humanity as a force for protection rather than destruction. Months passed. Humanity's fleet moved across systems showing both strength and diplomacy. Conflicts were resolved with minimal violence. and many civilizations pledged cooperation and alliance. Kirillin documented these events meticulously. History would remember this time not as the return of warriors but as the rise of guardians. In the Sol system, Earth itself was rebuilt. The planet that had once been devastated by war now flourished. Humans had returned not only to reclaim their home, but to ensure it remained a beacon of hope for the galaxy. Admiral Rains oversaw the reconstruction personally. Earth will be a symbol, he said to his commanders, not just of humanity, but of what can survive against impossible odds. Let this planet shine as proof that legends can return stronger than ever. Kirillin's final observations of humanity confirmed what he had long suspected. They were not gods, but extraordinary. Not conquerors, but protectors. Their return had shifted the balance of power in the galaxy, but they had done so with wisdom. He wrote in his final report, "They returned not as shadows of myth, but as fire." They were feared, yes, but also respected. They carried the weight of history, the knowledge of survival, and the discipline of centuries. Humanity does not seek to dominate for pride, but to ensure the galaxy remembers that no species can simply vanish without consequence. Their story is no longer a legend, it is truth. The galaxy slowly adjusted. Systems that once waged war against one another now considered alliances with humanity. Diplomats from distant civilizations traveled to Earth to learn from the humans. The legend of fear had become a legend of hope. Kirillin stood one evening on a distant observation deck aboard a human ship, looking at the stars. He felt small, yet part of something larger. The galaxy was vast, but humanity had returned not only to reclaim their place, but to guide others towards safety and respect. History was wrong, he whispered to himself. The humans were never gone. They were only waiting. And so humanity claimed its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians. Their fleet continued to explore, protect, and teach. Their fire burned brightly, a reminder that legends can rise again, stronger and wiser than before. The galaxy would never forget. Humanity was here not as myth, not as shadow, but as a force of hope, strength, and unity. And in every corner of space, one truth became clear. Humanity had returned, and with them, the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter.